This is the Racquel Ludaway Show. Real talk, real solutions. Sponsored by the Real Estate Radio Network. During the next hour, you'll gain valuable insights into real estate and investments from Racquel Ludaway, a Keller Williams Capital Partner and one of Central Ohio's top real estate experts. Now, get ready for some real talk with real solutions. Here's your host, Racquel Ludaway.
Hello and welcome to the Racquel Ludaway Show, Real Talk, Real Solutions on 98.9 FM, The Answer, the most important hour of radio for everything real estate in the Columbus marketplace. And the goal of the show is to educate, empower, and engage our listeners with tools to take their lives to a higher and more meaningful level by providing a balanced view of the current real estate and financial market and offering solutions to improve the quality of our listeners' lives. So each week, we will discuss hot topics in the Columbus real estate market and welcome special guests who are experts in their field and trusted advisors. And together, we will teach you how to win in any marketplace. So thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Racquel Ludaway, real estate consultant with Keller Williams Realty, the largest real estate franchise in North America. And you can always reach me directly at 614-886-7780. And if you're trying to decide if you should buy a home versus renting a home, you'll want to tune in to today's show. We will be discussing everything you need to consider when making the decision. And into the studio today, I welcome special guest Michael Isaacs. He's the Regional Vice President of Sales at First Choice Loan Services. And Michael's career in finance spans more than 20 years, including being the founder of Residential Finance, a nationwide mortgage bank, and CEO of Columbus Energy Concepts, a leading home remodeling company. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thanks, Racquel.
And also we have Adam Neft. And currently, he leads the corporate training and development at First Choice Loan Services. And some of you may remember Adam as a sportscaster on 97.1 The Fan. Welcome to the show, Adam.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Okay, so I have you guys here today, of course, because, and we may not get into sports today, Adam, sorry.
That's all right.
But we're going to talk a little bit about, buying versus renting. I do have a lot of people who I interact with on a daily basis, and they ask me the question. So I want to ask you guys, what you think. So, Michael, tell me a little, one of the reasons why you think someone should consider buying versus renting.
Well, Racquel, I think this is a great time to buy a home. I think that one of the things that we pay close attention to is the affordability index. That's an index that looks at the number of people in a market that can afford to buy and finance a home, specifically on a 30-year fixed mortgage with 5% down. And that number is about as high as it's been in the last 10 years. And the reason for that is because homes are still at very low prices compared to where they were adjusted for inflation over the past 10 or 15 years, and interest rates are at just about all-time lows. So when you look at whether or not you can afford to buy a house, two of the most important factors really are the purchase price of the home and the interest rate, and ultimately that determines your payment and the affordability of that home. And I don't think there's been a better time than right now to buy a home. Additionally, rental rates today are almost at all-time highs, again, adjusted for inflation. Rental rates are almost 25% above where they were, just 6-7 years ago, because so many people today are choosing to rent versus buy for sort of all the wrong reasons. But I think a lot of people are very cynical today after the financial crisis. So for the first time in most of our lives, real estate fell to a level that it since has still not recovered from. 7 years later, many people are still underwater and trying to get out of a bad situation. People have had their homes foreclosed on. People have short sold their homes and affected their credit negatively to where it's more challenging today in this market to get approved for a mortgage. So there's a lot of cynicism out there in the marketplace today, and I think that's causing a lot of people to choose or to decide to rent when they should really buy.
Right. And, you mentioned something in terms of, people trying to rent more. And I go on the highway on 270 and I see all these rental units that are going up. Like, for instance, in Dublin, I pass it every day. It seems like, the rental units are multiplying. And the average rent in Central Ohio, I think, is somewhere around $872. So you could buy a nice house for that. So and rates are, rental rates are even higher than that. That's just around the average, around 8. So they go up to, $1,100. It seems crazy to pay that much in rent when you can actually purchase and own your own home and start to build that wealth for yourself. So, you're kind of at the beck and call of your landlord in terms of that. So, but you had mentioned some interesting statistics when you talked to me a little while ago, and you had talked about the job rates and what's going on there. Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. Just this week, ADP announced their weekly new jobs created report, and the economy created 208,000 jobs this in November. The expected number was 225, so it fell short of that, but still a decent number. And for the 8th month in a row, the economy created more than 200,000 jobs. And that's an important number because it's an indicator that the Fed watches closely when they consider raising interest rates. And, I think that one of the things that people who are choosing to rent today and not to buy when they would qualify and they'd be able to afford to buy a house should pay close attention to that, because interest rates, again, are at sort of all-time lows. This week, the average interest rate came down from 4.15% down to 4.08%. That's extremely low. And although we've become accustomed to low rates over the last couple of years, it wasn't always like that. And, in most of our lifetimes, we saw rates as high as 6, 7, 8%. And that really changes your ability to be able to afford a nicer, larger, bigger, more roomy, house. And I think it's something that people should consider. Rates are going to go up. I think we've been talking about this for 5, 6, 7 years. I think we're finally at that point where we're going to see interest rates start to increase next year, and that's going to affect people's ability to afford a house that they, otherwise might have been able to afford if they had acted sooner.
And that's a really good point, because I think that we have been talking about this for, a couple years, and I think people are saying or thinking to themselves that we're crying wolf. We've been talking about the rates are going up and, everything's happening, but actually the rates have continued to go down. So it's not very, believable. I would think if I were someone out there trying to make that decision whether I should buy or rent, I would probably be thinking to myself, I probably still have another couple of years to get into the market. What do you think?
Well, there's an old adage, if you're paying rent, you're just paying someone else's mortgage, right? So I think it's up to each individual person to make the decision for themselves. But just like you, when someone comes to you maybe looking to buy a house, you consult with them and decide, is it their best interest to buy a house right now? For a lot of people, they're not really sure. They're just making the decision on their own without professional guidance, and that's where we try to come in and show them, okay, you're paying X amount in rent right now. A lot of people don't realize they could be paying the same, often less, by purchasing a house. Psychologically, it's nice because you own your own piece of property. You get a tax benefit from it. You automatically gain equity over time. So there are a lot of advantages to owning one's own home that you don't necessarily have with renting. Interest rates aside, obviously, they're going to go up at some point. I don't think anybody can predict exactly when or how much. I wish I could, because I'd be doing that for a living.
Right.
But at some point, they will go up, right? It's like the stock market. People make a lot of money predicting the stock market. Sometimes they're spot on. Sometimes they swing and miss. But I think it's up to people to decide, okay, is it worth at least the consultation to see what I could afford, if it would be right for me to own a piece of property?
I think that's really good advice. That's something that I would definitely recommend that people, if you're in the market and you're just thinking about, can I afford a home, or is this something that I should be thinking about? I would definitely say get a hold of your local real estate agent or a local loan officer. Preferably the people who are on the show right now today. That would be great. But you're listening to the Racquel Ludaway Show, Real Talk, Real Solutions on 98.9 FM, The Answer. And if you would like more information about the topic discussed on the show today, or you're in the market to buy, sell, or refinance a home, call me at 614-886-7780. That's 614-886-7780. And we'll be right back with more information.